Hello, World Vegan Day team. Welcome to the one of my videos about event project management. Today we'll be looking at the Embok system and how we use that at World Vegan Day. It's a very powerful system. It's a system I've been using for quite a long time now to get a project underway and make sure get all the I's and dots and T's crossed and all those sort of things. So it was developed by Julia Rutherford Silvers with a variety of other people that contributed to this wonderful model. It's a very powerful model. It's something that hopefully you can use in your careers for the rest of your life. So this is the model. It looks quite scary because it is, because it's basically giving you a picture, a diagramical view of what it takes to put on an event and all the processes and stages it has. So it's multi-dimensional. It's like 3D, so it serves as a really powerful tool to get the job done. So it has four main areas. It has the core values, values that it needs to have in order to be a successful process. We have the processes, which are industry standard to assess something, select something, monitor and communicate and document. Then we have the phases, that's the project management phases, industry standard. And then we have the domain of knowledge or classes. So I'll go into each one in more detail. First we have the phases. Each project management goes through phases. The initiation phase. You do this naturally in your head, but now we have to actually pull it overhead and see actually how this happens. So initiation stage might be the theme, coming up with ideas of how we're going to do things. Then we go into planning phase and really chunking it down into small logical steps so we know exactly where we are, setting our times and deliverables. And then the implementation stage is where we start hitting the road and start making things happen, start calling customers, stallholders, sending out emails to make things happen. And then we have the event itself, which is running on the day. And then we have closure, which is then sending out surveys, wrapping things up, paying the final bills, and so forth. So that's the 5 phases of event management. It's also for project management as well. And then, we went into the process phase. So each time we make a decision or we have a certain issue, we then go to this phase, which is we set your situation. Okay, we're going to introduce a new area called the paleo area. We assess it. We have a discussion about it. We've done some research on it. And this step might take quite a while. And then we select and decide exactly what that's going to look like and what form it's going to take. It might be an area. It might be a zone. It might just be a few people doing talks on it or cooking demonstrations on it. Then we monitor that process. That's how it's going. We keep on track of it, make sure it's moving along to the standard that it needs. We communicate that with everyone, make sure we communicate what's going on so everyone's on the same page, because once we make a decision as such, we need to communicate with everyone because everyone's affected. And you'll see later why everyone gets affected. Then we have to document that process so that way we can use it for next year and we don't have to recreate the wheel, and we can just we can then just fine-tune what we've done and reflect on it and see what changes can be made. And then we go back to the cycle again and assess and then redo it next year. So it's a forever going process that needs to be done continuously and done well. Keep going backwards. Okay, core values. We all have values, and so does this model. For this model to survive and work really well, it needs to have values, and we need to stick to those values. These values aren't necessarily in order, but we always want to be improving on what we've done and keep moving forward and growing as an event. So that way we keep providing better service to our clients, customers, stakeholders, and so forth. Being creative, thinking outside the box, and that doesn't mean drawing a pretty picture. That means about maybe creative thinking about a different way of approaching the problem, or a different way of finding a new solution. Ethics. You have to have ethics in this model. Everyone has to be open and transparent about where they're at. That way we can help and support each other. Integration. That's about when you make a decision to then integrate into the whole system, because it does affect everyone, and so we need to make sure everyone that's involved in the process actually is informed well, and everyone's on the same page. Strategic thinking. That's again about thinking outside the box and how can we get this done in the least amount of time, with the least amount of money, with the least amount of resources, but also producing the same or better result. So that is the values. So we have to embody those values to be able to make this model work really well. Then we move over to what I consider the most exciting part of this process. The other side we do really, all those other three we do naturally in our heads, but this one is something that is quite special. It's a domain of knowledge. There's been identified that there's 5 areas, and yeah, we've broken it down to 6 for World Vegan Day because sales normally comes under marketing, but because it's such a big area, we've made it our 6th one. So assume there's a 6th one there. And we have administration, design, marketing, operations, risk, and sales. Now, bear in mind, that's looking very similar to the management team that's in place. And that's very deliberate because we need these managers to manage these areas of the event because they're quite important. We'll go into more detail about that. So, as you can see, under administration, we have all these areas: finance, human resources, information, procurement, stakeholders, systems, and time. So you can see that our org chart is starting to map out to this now. And there are also all the people that we need, all the things that need to be done and made aware of. And then we're going to design. And we have catering, which is food and beverage, the content, what's going to happen, entertainment, what's the environment going to look like, production, program, and theme. Then we move into marketing. Now bear in mind, marketing has the sales department in there as well. So we have the marketing plan, materials, merchandise, promotions, public relations, sales, which is its own domain now too, and sponsorship. We also have operations. This is about everything on the day. So attendees, communications, infrastructure, transport, logistics, participation, all the needs of all our speakers and guests, what site relationship or venue, technical requirements that's needed. And then, of course, the most important, keeping everyone safe, risk, making sure we're compliant, making sure we can put the event on, make sure we're keeping the council happy, the venue happy, decision management, making sure we give appropriate decisions to the right departments and who can and can't make decisions based on situations that happen, emergency management, making sure we're safe and making sure everyone's up to speed with our emergency management processes, our health and safety, occupational health and safety, making sure everyone abides by these, got the appropriate insurances, making sure everyone that deals with us has the appropriate insurance, plus legal. And the one at the bottom that you can't see is security. There you go, security. So that is the 5 areas, or we have 6, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about that in a second. So that is the model, the 3-dimensional, multi-dimensional model that makes the event process work amazingly. So let's go into a bit more depth now and see it actually in action. So this is how it's mapped out in a sort of a 3-dimensional view. So it can be used in many ways. First of all, we've used it as an organizational chart. Then it can be used as a decision-making tool. It can be used as a checklist. It can be used as to aid job performances. It can be used as a training program. So it's, as I said, that's why it's so multidimensional, the way it can be used. But the main point of it is that that we cover all bases and that we address every situation properly and completely. So this is what it looks like as a 2-dimensional model. We have the 35 elements plus the 5 areas of domain, or the 6 in our case. And you can see once you make a decision in the design entertainment area, what sponsorship things do we need to consider? Now we could do that for finance. What do we need to consider for financial reasons? What human resources do we need to bring in? What information do we need to get off people? So in this case, entertainment, sponsorship. Can we get sponsorship for this entertainer? Or the entertainment area? Or what sponsors can they bring on board themselves? So this helps us think specifically on one area, and we can move across the diagram and up the diagram to have a different thought process. So again, the model. So again, the multi-dimensional model. And then so let's say turning out org chart into a checklist. So as I said, it has 4 parts. And we have 3 parts, which is the core values, the process, the phase, and then the domain of knowledge. So the domain structure, as I said, serves many purposes. We just did it as an org chart. Now we're going to do it as a checklist. It makes us look really cool as event managers, and it makes us really thorough, and it makes us make sure that we think the whole process through, and we're not a victim to circumstance saying we didn't know. So this really helps with that process. So there you can see that is our organizational structure. As I said, we have 6, and the sales department is got its own one now. So let's look at an example of selecting a speaker for World Vegan Day. The function would be under content development or content management with a design org chart domain. Okay, so design, content management, and speaker. So that will be the flow. And you can see we've got design, content, speaker, and then it crosses over all those areas, and we can ask the very powerful questions in those areas. So really make sure that you tick all the boxes and you ask all the most important questions. So let's have a look at that. So these are sort of questions you could ask. You go to the financial domain and go, what is the speaker's fee? If the speaker's free, what would they like to receive? Will we be paying their aircare? Will we be paying their accommodation? Is there any limits to how much we have to pay? And so forth. Do we have to buy them a gift or provide them water? Do all these things cost? And then human resources. Who's responsible for picking up the artist? Who's responsible for liaising with the artist? Who will serve them on site? Who needs to meet them at the airport, or as I said, or the hotel, book accommodation? Who will introduce the speaker? So all of a sudden we've got all these things that we haven't thought of. Now they're coming to our mind. Now we focus on information. How will they collect session proposals or abstracts? How will they handle correspondence with the speakers? E.g. session acceptance, denials, invitations, confirmations, thank you letters. What forms will the speaker need to fill out so that we can get all their details, like the AV requests and their riders and so forth? Procurement. What sort of documentation or procurement. So what sort of services, equipment, organic projection equipment, audience response systems, trackings, and so forth. How will we handle on-site equipment changes? So what sort of information do they need when it comes to any sort of things that we might have to acquire? Then we go stakeholders. What stakeholders might get involved? Is there any controversial reasons why this speaker would cause any issues? Especially with World Vegan Day, there might be a clash, and this person might actually eat meat or something that we didn't know about, so we need to figure out that. How will the performer might want to be evaluated? How will they use the communication with various stakeholders or stakeholder groups? Then we have systems. How are we going to capture all that speaker's information in the system, registration, badges, processes? How are we going to manage all that? How are we going to use online submission forms for them to hand in their PowerPoint presentations? So time. When do you need all their proposals submitted? When do you need to book the visa? When you need to book all the accommodation? When are they arriving? So everything to do with time management, when they start to finish, and when they leave. When do you need to get all the information? So that's like your timeline. So you can see this is just one knowledge domain, which is the administration area, and then we can move into we can move into the next area, which is design. And again, we've got a whole heap of questions that we can go through to determine what it means to bring out a speaker. So as you can see with the content, what sort of topic are they going to talk about? Entertainment. Do they need to do rehearsal times? Are they going to need special coaching? The environment. Do they need a table? What's it going to look like? Food and beverage. Does the speaker need? Are they going to be invited to conferences and other meals? And are we providing any water? So you can see there's a bit of overlap, but it doesn't matter about the overlap because it's better to be more thorough than miss things. Production. What are all the production needs that might be need? Special lighting, spotlights, wireless mics, pyrotechnics. Program. Where are they going to be slotted on the program? Does the speaker want to have a special spot where they're located? And theme. Will the speaker be presenting to the theme? What will the theme talk be about? Making sure that they stick to the theme. And then we have next domain, which is marketing. So everything to do with marketing. So I won't go into it in great detail, but you can get an idea. Maybe pause the video so you can read it yourself. And then we go into operations. And again, you can pause the video and you can see all the questions you'd have to ask yourself for operations. And then finally, risk. All the risks that are associated with bringing out a speaker when it comes to compliance and so forth, and making sure they're safe and security issues and so forth. So again, pause the video if you want to read these. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. As I said, it's a very powerful model. I'm just going to go back a couple of slides. So as you can see, it's not just an organizational chart, it's also a massive checklist as well. And also it can solve problems, it can be a to-do list, it can be a training manual. Where do we need training in what areas? If I'm going to bring out a speaker, what training do I need to provide? So it just depends what question you ask. But these act as prompts for you to then focus on that particular area, and then which redirects your thinking, and therefore you get more empowered answers. Because sometimes we can get stuck in this process and not know where to start. And so as new event managers, this is a great model for you to unstick yourself. So as soon as you get a project or an opportunity, just come to this model and say, so what do I need to do about finances? What do I need to do about human resources? Just ask that same question and you'll get some really powerful answers. So thanks for your time, and I hope you enjoyed listening.